Between the major cities on the coasts of the United States are hundreds of small towns where a good portion of the American population lives today. Established over the last 2 centuries as the country expanded west, the majority of these municipalities have one thing in common: a charming main street lined with shops, restaurants, and other small businesses. These broad boulevards, often with their vintage flair intact, are a quintessential hub of any small community. Sure, European towns might have main streets with fairytale-esque cobblestones and half-timbered facades, but nothing says Americana like a paved road flanked by old brick buildings and hand-lettered signs. Here, a look at 14 of the most beautiful main streets across the country. Galena, Illinois. It probably doesn't come as too much of a surprise that this town is named for the mineral galena, an ore of lead, which has been mined in the area for centuries. It has 2 other major claims to fame. It was once the largest steamboat hub north of St. Louis, and it was the home of President Ulysses S. Grant, and 8 other Civil War generals. Its main street has a fun nickname, Helluva Half Mile. Telluride, Colorado. Like many towns in the mountains out west, Telluride was founded as a mining town in the late 19th century, but it became a major ski destination in the 1970s. Colorado Avenue serves as the main drag, perfect for operas, ski shopping and dining, or a long summer stroll while browsing the windows. Pella, Iowa. Settled by Dutch immigrants in 1847, the town of Pella is a veritable little Holland. It's home to the largest working grain windmill in the country and has a replica of a Dutch square named Molengracht, complete with a canal, which sits right off Main Street. Visit in May for the annual Tulip Time Festival. Deadwood, South Dakota. Another byproduct of a gold rush, this time the Black Hills Gold Rush. Deadwood grew quickly in the 1870s. It was a true Wild West town, filled with casinos, saloons, and plenty of debauchery. Today it's still a gambling town, with many historic gaming and drinking establishments lining Main Street, but it's a much more orderly scene. Beacon, New York. Not every town on this list was built during the westward expansion. 2 fur traders purchased the land from the native Wappinger tribe in 1683, and a few decades later, 2 villages were erected on the site. Today it's best known as the home of contemporary art museum Dia, Beacon, which is a little ways off of Main Street, where you'll find a collection of restaurants and quirky boutiques. Brigham City, Utah. The first settlers in Brigham City, Utah, were a group of Mormons who arrived in the early 1850s. While the town suffered from economic hardship during its early decades, it boomed during World War II when the government built a major hospital there. Main Street nearly bisects the city perfectly. Bedford, Ohio. This suburb of Cleveland was founded in 1823 as settlers began building mills along the waterfall line Tinker's Creek. Broadway Avenue is the hub of Bedford's historic district, which is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Livingston, Montana. The Transcontinental Northern Pacific Railway put Livingston on the map when it opened a station in town. It was the final place an engine could be serviced before traversing the Bozeman Pass. The community then became the first gateway town to Yellowstone National Park. Main Street might only be a few blocks long, but it's packed with charm. Natchitoches, Louisiana. Natchitoches was actually founded by the French in 1714, making it the oldest permanent settlement in the Louisiana Purchase. Front Street along the Cane River Lake is the town's main thoroughfare, and it's lined with plenty of historic buildings housing shops and restaurants. Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Set in the Ozark Mountains, this Victorian town is known for its winding streets that cater to the hilly terrain. In fact, there are no traffic lights here as no 2 streets cross perpendicularly. It's not just Main Street that's recognized as historic. The entire town of Eureka Springs is on the National Register of Historic Places. Red Lodge, Montana, originally a stop for stagecoaches heading west. Red Lodge boomed in the late 19th century when coal was discovered nearby. The town saw an influx of European settlers, not to mention a large group of Native Americans seeking work in the mines, making its small population one of the most diverse in Montana at the time. Broadway Avenue is full of classic Old West saloons, cafes, and bed and breakfasts. Nevada City, California. During the California Gold Rush, dozens of towns cropped up across the state, one of them being Nevada City. At its peak, more than 10,000 residents crammed into the community, though today that population has dwindled to a more comfortable 2,800. Nevada City has largely retained the look of its earliest days, preserving many old structures along and around Broad Street, the historic main route that today is filled with dining options. Port Townsend, Washington, located on a peninsula north of Seattle, Port Townsend is known for its many Victorian-style buildings. Its waterfront area, home to the main road, Water Street, was designated a National Historic District in 1976. Staunton, Virginia, the birthplace of Woodrow Wilson, was officially founded in 1747, though the area was settled about 15 years earlier. One of its most famous attractions, American Shakespeare Center's Blackfriars Playhouse, a recreation of the playwright's famous Blackfriars Theatre in London. Staunton's Main Street was the first in Virginia to be awarded the National Trust for Historic Preservation's Great American Main Street Award,